Hey guys, it's Wednesday night and I am in Arkansas and you're in Wayne. And, I was racking my brain thinking about who I was going to get to teach while I was gone and came up with the crazy idea of videotaping this week's lesson as we start a brand new series. And so I'm glad you guys are here this week. I want to encourage you to have your handouts and your pens handy. You should have got one that looks something like this, except mine has the answers on it. Yours doesn't. I'm sorry. But we're going to jump right in, and as we get started tonight, the series is called rather Flipped, and the title slide you see is it looks like a guy being flipped over, and this kind of reminded me of a time back when I was still training in MMA, and I was part of a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu seminar and graduation. And if that just sounded like gibberish to you, what that is essentially is, you get together, the guest instructor comes in, you spend like 4 or 5 hours getting choked out all day, and then at the end of the day, the instructor decides who's progressed enough that they're gonna level them up a belt. So from white belt, they would go to green belt to blue belt to purple belt, I believe it is, and then purple belt to brown belt to black belt. Anyways, but one of the things I didn't realize when I went into the seminar and this graduation was that one of the traditions they have in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is that after you have been you ranked up and you receive your new belt, the instructor and guest instructor get to throw you or flip you. And so as they began and started, I was just kind of amazed as the guys started throwing these guys. And it seemed like as they went on and on, they were throwing them a little harder and, giving them, the guys were all kind of laughing and yelling and stuff. But he kept throwing them harder and harder. And there was this one guy, and I can't remember his name for the life of me, but he was promoting from his purple belt to his brown belt, which is a pretty big deal. Guys who have their brown belts, they've been doing it for quite a long time, very committed, that kind of thing. And he took this guy, this poor guy, and he took him. This guest instructor's name was Rodrigo Body. He took this guy, just flung him over his shoulder and slammed him as hard as he could. And this poor guy, man, he just got up so slow. I mean, just knocked all the wind out of him, all this stuff. And it's just crazy to think, though, as we begin this series Flip, that a flip can be a good thing. It doesn't have to always be bad in this case. But really, even in this case, that flip was signal or symbolize they're progressing, and it kind of reminding them where they've been, where they're going, because these are black belts who are doing it to them, and that's the level that you want to achieve. And so as we get started, as we continue kind of talking about this idea of flipped, and tonight we're going to be talking about power, but I want you to listen to these names and tell me what you think of. Not tell me, because obviously you're not going to tell me, but think about what you think of when you hear their names. Someone like Donald Trump, he has lots of money, real estate, crazy hair. What about the Jonas Brothers? Yeah, I know. They own the hearts of millions of 12-year-old girls everywhere, all over the world. And my buddy Clint, too. That's sad. We have Barack Obama, the President of the United States. Think about the kind of power that he holds. Or maybe a bodybuilder. Not to be mistaken for me, but he has physical power. The thing that all these guys have in common is that they have some sort of power that they hold, whether it be physical, whether it be over lots of individuals, emotional, whatever it is, they have power. And we're going to talk about this concept of power. Here's another thing. Our society and our culture, they teach that life is about having power. It's about moving up the ladder. It's about getting more stuff, getting more money, popularity, friends, all of these things. But another thing. Here's the thing that I love, and it's that Jesus took this concept of power and he totally flipped it upside down. He turned it upside down. I love that about Jesus. And instead, he said this, and this is the first blank on your page there. It's that power doesn't matter. Power, put power in that first blank. Power doesn't matter. If you've been a part of our Sunday night Bible studies we've been doing, you've come to learn a little bit about the world that Jesus was living in. We learned that the Jewish people were under the rule of the Romans, and quite honestly, they weren't happy about it. The reality was that the Jews wanted power. They wanted their freedom. They wanted, to exercise their own desires. They wanted power, and they'd lived so long as a people without political power that it was pretty much all they desired, was to be free from them. So as a result, when people heard that there was going to be a king of the Jews, that this Jesus was going to be the Messiah, that he was going to be the Savior and the King, you know what? They expected him to roll into town and on his chariot, maybe his horse, maybe a Ferrari. Well, maybe not a Ferrari, but they expected him to come just guns a-blazing. That he would be a regular king. He would come and he would deliver him. But that's not what happened, is it? And we know the story that Jesus came to earth. How? He came as a baby. Just not very kingly. He came as a baby. He came in the form that least resembled power. Babies are helpless. They need help. Somebody's got to feed them. Somebody's got to change them, take care of them. They don't have power. The Jewish people were trying to put together what was going on. They were trying to understand what in the world was going on with this Jesus guy, and trying to understand. The thing is that Jesus was trying to teach him that it's not about power. It's about how you. It's not about how you look. It's not about whether people look up to you or not. Did you catch that? It's not about power. It's not about how you look. It's not about how many people look up to you, how other people think about you. I know that's a struggle. It's so hard for us to understand. But what other people think of us, you know what? It has no eternal significance. It doesn't matter in the grander scheme of things. It doesn't. So let's look at what Jesus had to say here in Matthew chapter 20. And we're going to look at this. Starting in verse 5. It says, "But Jesus called them together and said," well, called who together? What is he doing here? There were 12 disciples that they kind of lived life with Jesus. They went wherever he went. We talked about this a little bit. That he mentored them, that they taught with Jesus. They heard Jesus teach. And here's what he says to them. All right, let's keep going. "You know that the rulers in the world lord it over their people, and officials flaunt their authority over those under them. But among you it will be different. Whoever wants to be a leader among you must be your servant, and whoever wants to be first among you must become your slave. For even the Son of Man came not to be served, but to serve others, and to give his life as a ransom for many." Now, does that sound like a king, a ruler, someone with authority? No, it sounds like a servant. If anybody desires power, prestige, status, any of these things, it was Jesus. If anybody, rather, not desired, but deserved it, if anyone deserved power, prestige, and status, it was Jesus. He was the Son of God. But he chose to put his power aside, and he himself served those around him. He didn't let others just, do everything for him. He got his hands dirty. He even washed the disciples' feet. And here's the thing, this is crazy. All right, these guys, they didn't have, shoes like we have today. They had sandals, and so as they would travel, they didn't have paved roads, so their feet would just get dirty and disgusting. And as they would enter a house, it would be the role of the servant or the slave to come and wash the feet of the guests of the house. Very nasty job. But Jesus, he did this for his disciples. So humbling experience. Jesus chose to put his power aside. He used his power, the power that he had, because he did have power, but he chose to put it aside. When he did use it, though, because he did miracles. He turned water into wine. He fed thousands of people with just a loaf of bread, a couple loaves of bread rather, and some fish. He caused the blind to see. We've talked about these things. He helped those who couldn't walk. He used his power. He had power, but he used it to benefit others. He didn't use it to make himself greater than others. He didn't use it to put others down. Every time he used his power, it was to help somebody else and not to bring the focus to him. It wasn't about drawing focus to him, but it was about helping and meeting other people's needs. That's what Jesus was all about. I love that. That's what mattered to him. No matter how powerful you are, that's what matters to him. No matter how powerful you think you might want to be in life, the thing that matters to Jesus is serving other people. It's okay to be in a power position, though. We think, well, it's not bad to be the president. It's all right to be Donald Trump. I just ask you get a different hairdo. It's not bad in itself to have these positions, but here's the thing. What are you doing with that position of power? How are you using the power? Are you using it to help others around you? Are you using the power and the influence that you have right now, where you're at, to help others or to help yourselves? Jesus turned this idea upside down. He flipped it around and said, use it to benefit others. Let's look at this other passage here in Luke chapter 9. It says, starting in verse 46, then his disciples began arguing about which of them was the greatest. But Jesus knew their thoughts, so he brought a little child to his side. Then he said to them, anyone who welcomes a little child like this on my behalf welcomes me, and anyone who welcomes me also welcomes my Father who sent me. Whoever is the least among you is the greatest. Again, Jesus here is kind of reiterating. He's saying, whoever is the least among you is going to be the greatest. You want to be first? Look, you need to be last. That's what Jesus was about, putting other people first. Here's what I want you to do. You'll see on your outline, and I have mine right here. I have something. I wrote, list some areas where you usually seek power. What are the areas in your life that you desire power? Is it at home with your parents, your family, maybe a brother or sister? You want to have authority over them? You want to boss them around? Or maybe, maybe it's your friends. You want your friends to kind of go along with you. Where is it that you long for power? Take a minute. Write some things down. Go ahead. Where do you desire power? Now, I want to flip this around a little bit. And you'll see a little statement, a little question under there. What I want to do is ask you instead now, how can you serve in those areas? And specifically, it says there, how can I serve this month? Take a month. We're in the month of Thanksgiving. We talk about giving thanks. Thanksgiving is not a selfish thing. Giving thanks is not a selfish thing. It's about giving thanks where it belongs. How can you serve this next month? Maybe it means helping a parent out without being asked or told. Maybe it's going out of your way to help a friend. How can you serve? It could be small, it could be big, but here's the whole point, that you start somewhere. Where are you going to start? Really think how you can serve somebody and who it's going to be. Here's the other thing I want you to get, is that the best relationships in life are the ones where power doesn't matter. And we talk about how society, culture, they really push power, but you know what? The best relationships are where that stuff doesn't matter. I don't have to be better than you, and you don't have to be better than me. Let's just be ourselves and hang out. Those are the best relationships. The people we talked about earlier, Donald Trump, all these people, you know what? In God's eyes, they're not the most powerful people. Instead, the most powerful people are those maybe we don't see as much. The people who are not in the spotlight, but those who are kind of in the background, serving others. This is what matters to God. Serving others, putting others first. It's not about how much power you have, but how you can serve others. I'm going to close tonight, just a really simple, short message. But I want to close with this thought for the week, and it's there on your sheet, the bottom, underline there. So fill in these words. The thought for the week is this. It's serving people, but serving people in that first part. Serving people is more important than seeking power. Second blank there, seeking power. I want you to really catch this. Serving people is more important than seeking power. I've told you guys before that as we've talked about, God has a purpose for all of us, and God has a plan. And one of the ways I've talked about how we can find our purpose is by serving. God has called each of us, um, not necessarily to be like missionary or preacher or whatever. I understand that, but God's called us all to be Him in some way to our friends, to our families. And I want to encourage you. How are you going to serve? How are you going to plug in? How are you going to help others? Because serving people is a much more bigger deal than seeking power. If you think about it, a lot of drama at school, things like that, over power struggles. Someone thinks they're better than someone, or they deserve something better. I don't know. This is a lot of drama. It doesn't matter. You know what? In a year, 2, 3, 10, you're going to forget about it. You're going to be like, I really don't remember what that was about. Now, let me ask you, does that matter? Do those things, are they that important? They're not. Find your purpose. Start serving. Serving people is more important than seeking power. I love you guys. I miss you guys. I want you to know that. And I will be back this weekend. So I will be actually back for the football game on Friday. So I just want you guys to really think about this. Hopefully be encouraged. Flipped. You know what? Power doesn't matter. How are you going to serve this month? Serving people is more important than seeking power. Let me just pray for you guys. Father, I just love you, and I thank you so much for the opportunity I have just to be with these students, even if it is digitally tonight, God, and just you've just placed a fire in my heart to serve them. God, I pray you help us understand that power doesn't matter. God, it's not worth the struggle and the strife and the pain that it brings. God, instead, serving is more important. God, help us see how we can serve others. I just pray this in your name. Amen. You guys have a good week, and I'll see you this weekend.